given that you smoke. That word given means that we have conditional probability. Okay? So, if you look at the one on the right, just developing lung cancer, they don't care if you smoke cigarettes or not. Okay? They're looking for the probability that you're going to get lung cancer, whether you're a smoker or not. The one on the left, we're only looking at the smokers. Okay? So, your first condition is you're a smoker. The second condition on top of that is that you're getting lung cancer from being a smoker. Okay, so the one on the left is your conditional probability. So, your conditional probability definition. I want to make sure I have the whole formal definition. The probability of an event A. So if you did not get all of this, the probability of an event, okay, and they're going to call it A because it's the first event. Was it B first?
Yeah, it was B first.
Okay, B first. My bad. I went a little too far into. So the probability of event B given. So again, that word given tells me conditional. That event A has already occurred. The probability of event B, given that event A has already occurred. Okay. So when we were doing probability before, you saw P, which represented probability. And then you would see an event in parentheses. So your event may have been, I don't know, rolling a 1 on the side of a die. Okay? That is just singular probability. Now that we're looking at conditional, this P, it still represents probability. Okay. This line right here represents the word given. Okay. This tells you that it's conditional. If you see two events and that line in between, that means we have conditional probability. The letter that comes after that line, this is the first event to occur. And B is the second event to occur. Let me give you a scenario before we move on with this and see if it somewhat starts to make sense a little bit. Okay, so let's see. While you're filling that out, A is the event of an even number. And B is a 2.
A 2.
Not a 2. Okay, so I give you two events, and we're looking at a 6-sided die. Event A is that we have an even number. Event B is that we're rolling a 2. Okay, so if I tell you to find the probability of B given that A has already happened, the first thing you want to look at is A. Okay, how many times can A happen on a 6-sided die? 3. You've got 3 numbers. So that's what you start with. The 3 goes in the bottom from your answer. Okay, that's the first thing that happens. We know we have an even number. Well, I've got 3 even numbers, 2, 4, and 6. Of those 3 even numbers, how many of them are a 2? 1. So your conditional probability would be 1/3. Okay, let me give you another one. So A is a red card. B is aces. The probability of B, given that A has already happened. So again, you always want to take this second one into consideration first. So that scenario is I have a red card. How many possible ways do I have a red card? 26. So that goes in the bottom. Of the red cards, how many of them are now aces? 2 out of 26, which reduces down to 113. Fantastic. Good job. Okay, so that's all there is to conditional probability. You need to understand first what's the first thing that happens. That goes on the bottom. And then of those things, how many fit into that second category? That goes on the top. Does that make a little bit more sense now?
Yeah. It's better when you do it because I can't do it like that.
What do you mean you can't do it
like that?
I
can't take notes like that. I can't like hear. I got like see.
I'm saying now that I've gone over this, does it make a little bit more sense?
What I'm saying.
Oh, okay. Okay. As long as you're good now. Like I said, I just wanted to kind of give you an introduction to it. Conditional for some reason just over everybody's head.
Yeah.
Okay. But again, that second letter that comes in your probability of B given that A, that's always your first scenario, the last thing to come. Okay. And if you kind of look, it kind of makes yourself a fraction. This is the bottom of your fraction. Here's your fraction bar. Here's the top part of your fraction. So that will kind of help you build this as well. Okay. So let's finish talking about these. In the bottom on the left-hand side, which one of these is conditional probability and why? The one on the left. What tells you, what word in this scenario on the left tells you that it's conditional? If. Okay. So your magical word here is if. So this one's conditional. On the right-hand side, which one's conditional? The one on the left. What's my magical words there? Without replacement. Okay, because our whole goal is to only look at the ones in the first category to do the second scenario. Okay, question. Okay, flip it. Let's look at the back side. So, this is exactly what we just did on that piece of paper. So, this is your formula. Again, this probability goes on the bottom. The probability that that first event has happened goes on the bottom. Once that event has happened, how many also fall into that second event goes on the top. So, we have a 6-sided die is being rolled. This is kind of, we just did this one, except we looked at a 2. What is the probability that I have a 4 given that it's even? So in the bottom, we want the probability of an even number. What's the probability of an even number? 3. We've got 3. Okay. We've got 3 even. In the top, how many 4s are also even? 1. So your final answer here is 1/3. Blow this up a little bit here. Okay. This next one, the probability of an American adult being a smoker is 0.17. The probability of being a smoker and developing lung cancer is 0.03. So what is the probability of lung cancer given that you smoke? So what's the first thing that has happened here? What's the first condition? Not lung cancer. Being a smoker. Okay, again, the thing that comes second in here is the first condition that has happened. So I'm only looking at the smokers. So what's the probability of a smoker? 0.19. Of those smokers, how many also have lung cancer? 0.03.
That's easy.
Okay. That one's easy because they just give you the numbers, which makes it super easy. Finally, the last one. 2 cards are drawn from a standard deck. On the first attempt, you draw a jack without replacing it. What is the probability that the second card drawn will also be a jack? The probability of drawing 2 jacks consecutively without replacement is 12 over 2,652. What's the first scenario? We're drawing a jack. What's the probability of drawing a jack? 4 out of 52. So 4 out of 52. What's the probability of a jack and then another jack? They give you this one. They give you this one. 12 over the 2,652. What I want you to do now is please cut this in half. These will glue in on page 162 and 163. From there, we are jumping to the half sheet, and then I will show you how to make a booklet out of the last set.
You said 162.
162 and 163.
Come on, I just said, you know, the man to be nice, that's what unless you want the problem.
Yes, ma'am.
Like,
Huh? Hurry up because I'm going to keep continuing.
Can I see we can do? I'm gonna not eat no more turkey wings.
No more turkey wings.
Yeah, she cooked some last night. You know how long it takes to cook on the crock pot. She started cooking like around 8, and they got done like around 1. And I noticed something was going on. I woke up this morning. Wait till she get back.
And you still missed.
Right.
He thought if he let me get by first that he'd get it.
Can I get some water, please?
Nope, I already have somebody out.
Well, can I get some water when they get back?
If I'm in the middle of teaching, nope.
Wait. Try to get yourself back, bruh. Well, that don't feel good.
Okay. This page is going to show you how to do conditional probability from what we call a two-way table.
A three-way table.
Okay, so a two-way table deals with different things. Across the top, they're talking about your favorite subject by grade. So that's one way. Down the side, they're talking about the grade level that you're in. So that's the second way. And they cross it to make a two-way table. So if you would read this, this means 38 seventh graders prefer English, 38 seventh graders prefer history, and 28 prefer math and science. 14 prefer the other subjects, and I have a total of 116 in the 7th grade.
Stop talking to me.
The only voice I'm hearing is yours.
For me to talk, I have to be responding to somebody. Logically, just
Okay,
stay
CJ,
over there.
you do nothing in my classroom, so please stop opening your mouth.
You just said something to me, so of course I'm gonna respond to you. Thank you. Yeah. Stop saying stupid shit to me. Yeah.
CJ, you know how to permanent seat.
Permit door. Out the door.
Permit. She didn't say for me. Permit.
Go have a
Push the button. Go ahead. Push the button.
Get out of my classroom.
Push the button.
In the hallway.
Please push the button.
I like it.
That's not almost
Right, no.
All
right.
Me, you both had Xbox. CJ.
He got Xbox now. He
I don't play it.
only got one.
If you're gonna beat me up to the office, you have to say, Charles,
He's got one.
there's another
I really
CJ.
don't.
I need you to just stop talking to me.
I need you to stop.
Okay. So, what is the probability that a randomly selected person will prefer history given that the person is an 8th grader? So what is the first condition that is happening here? You're an 8th grader.
Miss Smith,
Yes, ma'am.
are you referring to Charles?
Yes, ma'am.
Charles, meet me at the bottom of the step. I'm coming by right now.
He's on his way.
Okay, thank you. Bring your things.
Which step?
What is hell?
Okay. So the first condition is the one that comes after the words, given that. So the first thing that's happening here is we know that they're an 8th grader. So that's what goes in the bottom. The probability that they're an 8th. So that's the first question you want to ask yourself. How many 8th graders do I have? 182. So with that being said, and with this being conditional probability, let me steal myself here some sticky notes to. So now that we're looking at 8th graders, I'm only looking at this line. Okay. Now that you've given me that condition, I don't care about the 7th graders or anything about them. I'm only concerned about this line that's in the 8th grade. What's the second condition that we're looking at? We know they're in 8th grade now. So, of these 8th graders, how many prefer history?
45.
45. That's what goes on top.
45.
Okay, the probability that they like history and they're in 8th grade goes on the top. The last thing you need to do is determine whether this needs to be reduced. So plug it into your calculator. 45 divided by 182. And change this fraction, or it'll come out to be a decimal. Change the decimal back into a fraction and see if this needs to be reduced. Nope, it comes back 45 out of 182.
Yeah.
You're done.
Yeah.
Okay, take a look at the second one. What's the probability that a randomly selected person will be a 7th grader given that the person prefers English? So again, what's my first thing happening? We prefer English. Okay. Again, it's the ones that come after the words given that. So I'm only looking at the English people. How many English people do I have? 85. I've got 85 total in the English column. Of the English people, how many are also in the 7th grade?
38.
We're only looking at the English people. 38 are in the 7th grade. So the first condition will tell you which row or column that you're looking at. And then the top one, where do the two intersect? Where does English and 7th grade intersect gives you your top number. Okay? And the bottom. Okay. There's a big problem with this two-way table versus the one you just had. What am I missing on this one? The totals. So what I would do is I would go through and put your totals on first. So I need a total of boys.
29. Come on.
There are 37 boys. I need a total on my girls.
A lot.
35 girls. I also need totals to the right-hand side. How many total people drink milk? 34. I need a total of juice.
19.
And I need a total of water is 19. For a grand total of what down here?
Oh, we need a grand.
72. Awesome.
77.
Okay, so if they give you a two-way table without totals, give yourself some totals first. That way you know every number that you're dealing with before you sit here and try to do all this probability. So A is now saying, what is the probability that a person prefers milk if they are male? So again, this one doesn't say given that, it says if. Your first condition comes after the word if. So what's my first condition?
They are male.
We know that they're male. That's my first condition. If they're male. So, males, what's that give me in the bottom? I'm only looking at 37 people because I only care about the males. If they're male, how many drink milk? 16 out of 37.
I get it right.
Oh, easy.
Okay, and finally the last one, what's the probability that a person is female if the person prefers juice? What's my first condition?
Juice.
We prefer juice. So how many people prefer juice? 19. Of those 19 people, how many are a female? Boom. 163, my friends.
Bro, that was a cheat code. It's really cheap.
What's cheap?
No.
Is it 164? I'm sorry, 164.
How good you?
I'm going to show you. It's going to actually be a book. We're going to create a book.
I hate reading.
Okay. When you're done gluing that page in, we are on the last set. There should be a staple in the corner. Please take out the staple and separate your two pages.
Yeah. These
Oh.
are the last notes we're doing.
This is it.
For the
Yes.
year.
Oh my God.
There is no more.
No.
Like I said, after this, tomorrow we're going to do an activity about conditional probability. Okay. And then Friday, you guys are doing a practice final. Tuesday, we're going to go back and review some probability. You're going to test on it. And Thursday and Friday are nothing but Math 2 review for your final exams. Okay, so please take your staple out. Listen, this can get complicated, so I need you to please, for the love of Jesus, have a friend take your staple out. Dewan, will you be a friend?
I'll be a brother and take yours out there.
Do I have to?
Please?
That's enough. Do I have to?
For me?
Do I have to? Yeah.
Let me do it, Miss Mill.
Please.
Let me do it.
Bargain for extra.
Please.
Let me do it.
Bargain for extra.
I mean, I can never force you to do
I mean,
anything.
can I do it?
Who is you?
But I'm saying like pretty please with some sugar on top.
What is sugar? Sugar don't taste good on lobfish.
Sugar is in your coffee,
I can do it.
in a container on your counter, in a bag in your cupboard.
No. You say you can get
I said pretty please with sugar on top. Be nice.
He just said something like, I don't work for free.
Okay, so the first page.
Oh, you also
Guys, I need you to pay attention because if you fold this wrong, it's not going to glue in properly. The first page I want you to find is the one that says finding conditional probability with example 2. It's got conditional and relative frequency, one more survey, and it's the one with the blank on the back of it. Okay, so there should be a page with a blank on the back. Everybody find it?
Oh, you talking about this one?
Yes, this one with this on the back of it,
Okay.
where it's blank with the flamingo math on the bottom.
Oh, look at my hair. It sounds great.
Okay, so what I want you to do is fold it in half so that this blank sheet is on the outside. Okay, fold it like this so the blank sheet's on the outside. Fold it in half. Yep, fold it in half. Got it. Okay. Once you have folded it in half, you're going to take your scissors and you are going to open it up. Watch what I do.
Open it up.
Okay, you're going to open it up. Along that crease, I need you to cut about 1.5 inches up.
Wait, what?
Stop and listen for a minute. And 1.5 inches down. So you're going to open it up so you can see your crease. You're going to take your scissors and you're going to cut yourself a little slit at the top and a slit at the bottom that's about 1.5 inches in from either side.
I need a ruler.
Huh?
Can somebody guide?
It doesn't have to be exactly 1.5 inches. So I would cut.
I think that was
I'm sorry, I moved yourself because I was going to place our friend in the hallway.
Oh my God.
And then I just have to.
Okay, I think I did it. Yeah, I did it.
Oh.
I did it.
You're a
That
failure.
looks good.
It's straight.
That looks good. That looks good. Good.
If
If your friends are struggling beside you,
When lucid dreams, like your
your hair was back on her
I
desk.
did somewhere.
No, you can't cut your really hair. No, you can't cut your hair. Okay.
Please.
Everybody good with that page? Take this page and set it aside.
That dude black. I seen that song.
What do we do with those?
He black.
You black?
Yeah, I seen that song.
You been doing it?
Huh?
Okay. The other page. The other page. I need you to fold it in half so this is on the front. The conditional probability needs to be on the front. This is the tricky one. So fold this one in half so conditional probability is on the front.
Why?
And again, this is the tricky one.
It's
a cut. No, you're not cutting like you did the last one, so please do not do so. Okay. Once you folded this one up, pay attention. You're going to open it up and you're going to fold it in half the other way, but don't crease it. Okay? Just fold it in half the other way so your lines are on top of each other. Do not crease it. So you should be like this right about now. Okay? We good?
No.
Just kind of pinch it and hold it. Okay.
Wait, no, that's the wrong way.
I got it.
Now I got like this.
Okay. So now, from this side, you're going to take your scissors and watch what I do first before you do it. Cut it and leave about 1.5 inches at the top. So now it looks like this. So when I open it up, you've got like a mouth in the middle. Nom, 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 nom.
Oh. Bro,
You don't want a mouth?
no, that's sweet.
I don't know if I'm going to keep my mouth shut. I don't wear a mouth shut.
Okay. Does anybody not understand what I just did and need to come me?
I did it right. He said, help.
Help me.
He said, what?
I'm going to cook it.
He said, what?
Anybody else need help with how to fold that one?
I know a legendary,
Hey.
bro.
So now we're gonna put your booklet together.
Ow.
So lay this paper in front of you, just like you see it. Okay, you're gonna take this other paper, okay, with the back side up towards you. Everybody see it, right? You're gonna take it underneath here. So kind of fold it in half the way you just did with the conditional one, so it's hot dog style, but don't crease it. You're gonna go underneath here and through this slit.
Wait, what?
You're gonna go underneath the paper and through the slit.
Underneath the paper, through the slit. So you gotta go through like.
And then you're gonna open it up. The blank side of the other paper. If you need my help, I'm coming around.
Yeah, I need
So,
your help.
once you put it through, it should look like this. Underneath. And through this slit.
Hey, I got it.
If you got it, please get up and start helping
I was
other people
upside
get this
down.
stuff. You got it, but it's upside down.
Yeah.
And then
I don't know how to get it out.
I don't know how you do it.
there we go.
You ain't got milk.
Guys, who needs my help?
Me. I'm your favorite.
What lie? One more again.
Yo, what love?
Christian don't understand.
He said, what?
What?
It's in here. Once you get it in here,
Put it upside down again.
It looks like a buddy.
slide it down.
Oh no, bro.
I told you this is semi-complicated.
Dude, I hate butterflies.
It's
I stuck on it.
It's too creative.
Yes, for you.
Ask my kids
You're a rock
last
star.
year. I did 7 of these in this
Did
entire
your baby
year.
mama let's go?
I stuck on. I got it.
Me.
Okay.
That's what I thought.
Bro, what I said?
Thank you.
Kyrie's man.
Chris, how are you?
I'm gonna get that tattoo, bro. I'm gonna get that tattoo.
Yeah, it's good.
You heard me?
I'm coming,
I'm
Trevor.
gonna get that tattoo, bro. See you talking.
No.
Tattoo like tattoo like that, bro. Oh, bro. You gotta lead the goat to where he is. So if you want to be the devil, you gotta be the devil. Can't say nothing. You thought criminal law parties. You're.
Who else needs help?
I said you thought Curry lost twice, big dog.
You didn't come.
That's where they live.
You know Curry lost twice, bro. Elijah. You hear this, right?
Yeah, making that sound.
No, Lord, Curry lost twice, right?
See it too. You see that?
That's sad, bro.
And we just put the song on sad.
Huh? Well, listen to X, bro.
You said that's sad, and we just put a song on sad.
This
It's sad.
It is.
Thank you.
Yeah, we could have been a break.
If you don't have her, I would be able to line.
Chris Paul said he said.
Anybody else?
Not really. I came out from one. I'm a rookie.
That's right.
They're gonna be at the Oracle.
I told you.
Just turn the page. You good?
He said he don't talk about hometown no more.
That should be your friend.
His hometown. Oh. Who are you? That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. His hometown.
In the wrong way.
It was Clay Paul.
You did everything right. Instead of going that way.
So, Jerome Blue, a water blue water blue.
And he had blue water from too.
That's correct.
Or pregnant. He did have like
Yeah.
28.
I tell you, he's a god. You don't like them jerseys.
I also said
I just sleep with
Them jerseys is legendary. They're black.
All right.
They're black.
So when you're finished, you now have a booklet on conditional probability. Everybody needs to applaud. This is your last photo in math too. Yay!
Finally.
He says finally. All right. So this first blank, conditional probability. Which is a condition that may limit the sample space of an event. Okay, think about it. You had one condition that happened first. So let's go back to that dice example. The first condition was that it was even. So normally you have a sample space of 6, right? The numbers 1 through 6 on a die. When I give you that first condition, that limits your sample space to 3 numbers, 2, 4, and 6. So that's what makes it conditional. You can write a conditional probability statement using the notation, the probability of B, given that A has already happened. So your conditional probability formula, again, in the bottom is the probability that B has happened. And in the top, the probability that A and B have happened. So again, your first condition, those choices go on the bottom. And of those, that number goes on top. To do conditional probability, we have something called a two-way table. useful way to organize your data that has two variables. You may or may not have a two-way table. We're going to talk a little bit about something called joint relative frequency.
What joint?
Joint relative frequency. And this is just the value in each category divided by the total number of values in a two-way table. Okay, so this would be me taking 24, which is the amount of paperback and fiction, divided by the total number of books I have altogether, whether they're paperback, fiction, nonfiction, or hardcover. That is joint. Okay, we're also going to talk something about marginal relative frequency. Which is the sum of all of the joint relative frequencies in each column and row of a two-way table. We're going to talk about all of them. And again, the activity we're going to do tomorrow extends what you're learning today. And I hope more with the hands-on tomorrow that it might be a little bit easier to grasp if you are struggling. So if we open up to the first example on the inside. Okay. The results are from a class survey. Okay. They're asking, do you own a pet? Take a look at this two-way frequency table. What am I missing? Totals. So let's get some totals first. So if I do the total of each column, this is how many people own a pet? 14. How many people do not?
12.
Okay. I then need to get the totals of the rows. So how many females do I have in class? 13. And how many females? 13. What's my grand total here then? 26 people. Okay, I got 26 total. So now we're going to use this chart to answer the following questions. A, find the probability that you own a pet given that you're a female. What's my first condition? You're a female. Okay? We only care about the females. Okay, so in the bottom, I need the probability of a female. How many females do I have? 13. Of those females, how many own a pet? 6. There's your answer.
That's my favorite number.
I heard number 14.
Favorite number 7.
I heard number 14.
Okay.
30.
Take a look at B. What's my first condition in B?
You're a male.
You're a male. Okay. Guys, stop with the individual conversations. Focus. My first condition in B is that I'm a male. How many males do I have? 13. And again, of those males, how many own a pet?
8.
Okay. The last one. The last one is not conditional probability. Why?
Because it says something that you don't own.
It just says you don't own a pet. It has nothing else. We don't care about anything else. So when it's not conditional probability, it is out of the grand total. What did we find was our grand total?
26.
26. So this one's out of 26. Of those 26, how many do not own a pet? Which is 6 out of 13. Okay.
Okay, Marlon.
If you flip on the other side, this time we've got a table for high school diplomas and job experience. Again, what am I missing?
Total.
Total. So let's get some.
All right.
69 say yes, have job experience. 27 say no. How many
85.
students? 85
Liam.
and 11.
That equals 96.
And that equals 96. Okay, so take a look at the first one. The probability of a diploma. Is this conditional or not? Not. We're only looking at one thing. So again, when we're only looking at one thing, my bottom number is the total, which is what in this scenario? 96. So the total goes in the bottom, which is 96. And in the top, we're only looking at people with diplomas. 85. Okay? We don't care if you have job experience or not. We just care whether you have a diploma. And there are 85 people that have a diploma. Okay? B, the probability of diploma and experience. Is this conditional? No. What am I missing that conditional usually has? What symbol is missing? That line. That line that means given. Okay? So this is still not conditional probability, which means in the bottom, I still need my total. So it's still out of 96. But this time in the top, I want diploma and experience. So how many people have a diploma and experience, Trevor? That's where the 62 comes in. So where the two meet because you're given two things. So we're pulling the 62 instead of the 85. Okay? So diploma and experience go on the top.
That's going to be reduced.
So that can be reduced to what? 31 over 48.
That can still be reduced. No,
So again, as long as it is not conditional, it's out of the grand total. That's what made both of those out of 96. Take a look at C. The probability of experience given that we have a diploma. Is this conditional?
Yes.
Yes. What's my first condition? A diploma. So in the bottom, we want the probability of a diploma.
So that'll be 85, right?
Okay, so that's 85. Of those people that have a diploma, I want to know how many have experience. 62. And finally, the last one. Is this conditional or not?
No.
Yes, it's conditional. What's my first condition? Experience. The probability that I have some experience. How many people have experience?
52.
Total people that have experience. We're not doing anything else but experience right now. 69. Okay. Of those 69 people, how many have no diploma? 7. Questions? Oh, we're almost done. We're almost done.
We got 4 pages. We got
You gotta say something.
Shot 3.
I hate this Band-Aid.
Okay, we're actually going to skip this page and move on to this one.
No, it's good.
Okay.
It's good.
It's good. Okay, so take a minute or two and give me some totals to this two-way table, please. Take a minute or two and give me some totals that go along with this two-way table, please. So you'll need a total of how many males we have, a total of how many females we have, a total of how many associates, how many bachelors, and how many master's degrees. While you're doing that, an associate degree is how many years? 2. An associate's degree should take you about 2 years to finish, as long as you are a full-time student. A bachelor's degree takes you how many years? 4. And a master's degree would take you about 6. And bless you.
Thank you.
Okay, again, these are all based on the fact of you're a full-time student. You can take the courses that you need to take in an appropriate amount of time, so on and so forth. You have a question for me?
I made this song.
We're skipping this.
So you made that song?
No, I'm just. I folded it in half. It's easier to work with that way. Does anybody have a total on the associate's degree yet?
I got 700.
744. Anybody have a total on bachelor's yet?
1,705.
And what about masters?
757.
Anybody get a grand total yet?
Uh-oh.
You're fine.
Hold
Does
on.
anybody have a total on males?
No.
Yes. 1,242.
Okay. And what about females?
1,940.
Soon as somebody gets a grand total.
Oh my Jesus grace.
3,206.
I was so close.
She's our saving grace.
Save me some.
She saves our butt. Okay. So, A says the probability that your recipient is male. Is this conditional? No. So what should go on the bottom?
The grand total.
The grand total, 3,206. So total goes on the bottom. Hey, what goes in the top then? Males. How many males do I have?
744. Oh my.
1,242. Okay, we don't care anything else about the males. We just care that they're a male.
Wow. You gotta reduce
Man. Got no redeeming
Okay.
quality.
Yes, we need to reduce this. So in your calculator, do 1,242 divided by 3,206.
821.
Change your decimal back to a fraction. 621.
Over,
Okay. 6 what?
03.
Thank you. Y'all had it, and y'all are mumbling it together. Okay. What about B? Is this conditional? No. So what goes on the bottom?
Grand total.
Grand total. What goes on the top? 1,705.
Yep. Yeah.
Does this one reduce?
Yeah.
No. Leave it alone.
Yeah.
Okay. C. Is this conditional?
No.
Yeah.
Yes. Even though it doesn't have that line, look at the words. Given that. Okay, so they use the words instead of the line. Given that. So what's my first condition? Masters. We have to have a master's degree. How many people have a master's degree?
Master plan.
757.
Master plan.
Okay. In that row, that's 757. How many of them have the first condition? 464. We're looking at females and a master's degree, which is 464. Let's see what you do with D. What's my first condition in D? Okay, we know that you're a male. Okay, we know that the person we're looking for is a male, which means I have a total of 1,242 people I'm looking at. My second condition says not an associate.
That's all the bachelors and all of that.
So you do masters and bachelors together. Not an associate means that you have a bachelor's or a master's degree.
What's an associate?
An associate is like a 2-year degree.
2,462.
2,400 and what?
What
2,000.
kind of job can you get with that degree?
It shouldn't be 2,000 anything. How is it 2,000 and anything?
Yeah.
How are you getting 2,000? What are you putting together? But remember, we already know that you're a male. We don't care anything about the females. So we're just in this column. So how many of the people just in this column have a bachelor's or a master's? 970. So you added these two outside numbers together. Okay. Remember, when it's conditional, we're stuck in a specific column or in a specific row. Okay. Actually, we're going to stop there. We will finish the rest of this tomorrow.
You go.
No.
Yeah.
I want to give you time to start your assignment. So,
Let me see that glue.
please do me a favor and glue this on 165 and you will never have to glue in your notebook again.
Never.
For real.